a topographical map of cannabis cessation after 35 years. What happens when you decide to stop smoking cannabis after 35 years? The textbooks say one day at a time. They hand you a pamphlet and a handshake. But there is no map, no terrain to navigate by. So, we decide to draw one ourselves. After 35 years of daily cannabis use, the decision to stop was not a single event. It was a shift into unknown terrain. The absence of reliable maps for long-term heavy-use recovery made the territory feel impassable, so we mapped it ourselves. Over 183 days, the project published daily dispatches across Substack, TikTok, YouTube, and social platforms. The data was collected in real time: mood, fog, sleep, creative output, and a range of neurocognitive markers. The scaffold, an AI crew named Prism, George, Atlas, Lex, Echo, and Chrono, provided the structure. The human provided the raw material. What follows is the first full summary of that terrain. The phases described below are the landmarks we found. Your journey will not follow the same schedule, but the countryside will be familiar. Acute withdrawal, Phase 1, the swamp, days 1 to 30. The body and the brain in open revolt. The first month was not a gradual decline, it was a systemic shock. The body, starved of the cannabinoids it had relied on for 3.5 decades, responded with a unified crash. Sleep fragmented, cognitive fog settled in, sensory blunting made the world feel distant, as if viewed through a smeared pane of glass. The days did not drag so much as they stretched, time dilating into an unfamiliar viscosity. Simple tasks required conscious effort, the internal engine was smoking, and the only instruction was to keep it running. Signature experience. The repair wave nadir on day 4, a concentrated period of sleep disruption, cognitive fog, and emotional blunting that functioned as the first true test of sustainability. Key metric: fog scores averaged 4.2 out of 10, mood averaged 4.6. These numbers are not catastrophic, but they represent a baseline of persistent low-grade discomfort. The body was not in crisis, it was in constant quiet resistance. What it felt like. Survival was the first milestone. The engine was still smoking, but it was running. Post-acute withdrawal syndrome. Pause. Phase 2, the pink cloud and the wall. Days 30 to 60. A brief window of false ease, then the 8-week barrier. Around day 30, a shift occurred. The acute withdrawal subsided and a period of relative ease emerged. Mood improved, fog lifted, the body seemed to signal that the worst was over. This was the pink cloud, a temporary reprieve that masked the deeper structural work still required. It lifted and the terrain changed again. What followed was the 8-week wall, a return of fog, a drop in mood, and a sense of stagnation that felt like regression. The wall is not a failure, it is a phase. It is the moment when the initial relief of recovery gives way to the grinding reality of sustained repair. The old chemical solution is mourned, and the new sober architecture has not yet fully formed. Signature experience. The pink cloud lifted, the 8-week wall arrived on schedule, days 51 to 60, the grief surfaced, the old solution was mourned, the not acting held. Key metric. Mood dropped from a peak of 6.2, days 30 to 35, to 3.8, days 55 to 60. Fog returned to levels comparable to the swamp. What it felt like. The wall is real, the flat is real, the desire is real, the not acting is the proof. Phase 3, the Flatlands, days 60 to 120. The longest stretch. Anhedonia, emptiness, the coast of nothing. The crisis was over, the repair was working, but ordinary life felt flat. This phase is the least dramatic and the most challenging. The body is no longer in revolt, the brain is no longer oscillating wildly, but the reward system is not yet recalibrated. Pleasure is absent, motivation is low, the absence of pain is not the presence of joy. Days become structurally identical. The sameness is not a symptom of regression, it is the sound of a system running on minimal power while deeper repairs are completed. The task is not to feel better, the task is to continue. Signature experience, the banana skin flatness trap. A state where the absence of crisis becomes its own form of stagnation. Prototyped on day 6, fully realised here. The instinct to fill the void with old chemical rewards is strong, but the scaffold holds. Key metric, mood floor settled at 4.8. Rubble score stayed below 2. Not crisis, but a persistent absence of reward. What it felt like. The crisis is over, the repair is working, but ordinary life feels flat. The task is to endure the flatness without mistaking it for failure. Phase 4, the frequencies, days 90 to 137. The brain began to retune. Loud, oscillating signals, pressure headaches, vivid dreams. Around day 90, the brain began to shift. Not a return to normal, but a recalibration of internal bandwidths. Gamma, beta, alpha, theta, delta, the neurooscillatory frequencies that govern attention, sleep and processing began to unmix. The experience was not subtle. Pressure headaches arrived like weather fronts. Vivid dreams played out with cinematic intensity, as if the brain was offloading decades of compressed data. A sense of internal noise was both disorientating and promising. The orchestra was tuning. Signature experience, neurooscillatory recalibration. The unmixing of internal bandwidths. The brain was not healing, it was retuning. The frequencies, once a single muddy note, were becoming distinct, separate, and eventually harmonious. Key metric, vivid dream frequencies peaked at 73% of nights. Fog dropped to near zero. What it felt like. The orchestra is tuning. The conductor is learning patience he never had. Phase 5, the shutdowns and re-engagement, days 140 to 183. The filing system came online. The rich spot, sober creative flow under load, was accessed. The final phase of Project Phase 1 was marked by 2 developments. First, the shutdowns. Periods of cognitive fatigue that had lasted up to 90 minutes in earlier phases shortened significantly. The brain was becoming more efficient at resetting. The involuntary power downs were no longer crashes, they were maintenance. Second, the rich spot was discovered. On day 167 at 4 a.m, a state of sober creative flow emerged. No substances, no preparation, just access. Musical improvisation, comedic ideation, and complex problem-solving occurred without friction. The rich spot is not a cure, it is a benchmark. It proved that the target, sober improvisational creativity, is reachable. The 35-year chemical shortcut was a hack to induce the same state. The native engine can reach it on its own. Signature experience. The 4 a.m. rich spot. Creative flow when the prefrontal manager sleeps. The filing system delivering intention, not just content. Key metric. Mood lifted to 6 as a default baseline. Shutdown shortened from 90 minutes to 35 minutes. Creativity under load was achieved sober, unplanned, and real. What it felt like. The rich spot is real. Sober, clean, improvised. The core target is hit. What the map shows. The arc is not linear. It is a sawtooth upswing, downswing, higher floor. Each low preceded an upgrade. Each flat stretch compressed into a rise. The data is not a straight line. It is a series of corrections, each one landing on a slightly higher baseline. The engine did not roar back to life. It coughed, stalled, hummed, and eventually found a rhythm. The phases are transferable. Others will walk this terrain on their own schedule, but the landmarks are the same. The swamp, the wall, the flatlands, the frequencies, the shutdowns, the rich spot. For the person in the swamp, this will not last forever. For the person at the wall, this is not regression. This is the work. For the person in the flatlands, the absence of crisis is not the absence of progress. For the full project data, please visit deepseekandme.substack.com. The Daily Dispatch archive is linked in the description. And please don't forget to click subscribe.